Hi, I'm Robert.
And I'm Taylor, and we are the head prefects of Central Coast Grammar School for Class 2020. Firstly, we would like to start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connections to land, water and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging.
At around 4:30am on the 25th of April 1915, the first soldiers of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps landed on the Gallipoli Peninsula. Gallipoli itself was not an Australian battle, for we landed and fought alongside troops from New Zealand, Britain and France, as well as representatives from other nations within the Commonwealth. So the question to ask is, what makes Gallipoli so meaningful and different for Australians? Gallipoli was the first major battle we as Australians fought as a nation. Soldiers from every state of the newly federated Australia volunteered and fought.
Gallipoli lasted 8.5 months. In that time, 7,600 Australians and 2,500 New Zealanders were killed. 24,000 were wounded. Gallipoli was a battle we lost, and yet people still celebrate defeat. The reason being is that in commemorating Anzac Day, we never set out to celebrate victory. April 25th is not about military victory. As a people, we choose a day when loss of war first scarred the consciousness of a young nation. As a nation, Australia would go on to serve in conflicts around the world. It's serving men and women, serving in distinction and dedication, contributing to our proud and respectful military heritage.
Anzac Day is a great Australian and New Zealand tradition, as it is celebrated across both nations. It is a day to remember the courage of people and the value of friendship, to honour the dead and to acknowledge those who suffer still today from the effects of war. Anzac Day is not a day of military parades and power. It is a day of gatherings of veterans, of reunions, of services, of community involvement, of reflection and honouring our forebears. We celebrate the legacy that those who fought at Anzac gave us, and those who followed them strengthened and enriched.
If you think about it, Anzac is not a battle or a place. Anzac is a collective noun for a group of people. Therefore, Anzac Day gives us, as a nation, the opportunity to think as individuals, ordinary Australians serving the nation in times when, as a democracy, have seen our land or interests threatened to such a degree that it has been necessary for us to go to war. We think of those who served, those who joined together to make the formidable fighting and support forces that Australia was and still is proud of today. In the story of the Gallipoli landings, Australians saw positive characteristics displayed by their troops that will echo throughout later conflicts such as Korea, Vietnam, East Timor, Iraq and Afghanistan, and within other hardships, crises and peacekeeping missions.
Anzac Day has a huge meaning to me, as my family has had a strong connection to the Australian military for many years. My grandfather and his brother both fought in World War II. My brother is a past member of the Air Force Reserve and my sister is currently serving in the Navy. It also carries significance as my career goal is to be an engineer in the Air Force. The Anzac legend details qualities such as endurance, courage, ingenuity, good humour and mateship. All of these qualities I can relate to and identify with and strive to display in my own life and the way that I conduct myself. Anzac Day is important to me as it is not only a recognition and commemoration of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for their country, but is a reminder and an entrenchment of those values of endurance, courage, ingenuity, good humour and mateship that I believe are so important to my country and to every single Australian.
Personally, Anzac Day is about the supreme sacrifice that so many young men and women have given. Our own life is the most precious gift we have, and to risk that for a noble reason is a sacrifice that demands respect. It reminds me of the young, adventurous, and above all, the patriotic soldiers that fought for our country's freedom. I respect their selflessness, courage, and valour, and their unquestionable dedication to each other. I could not imagine how discipline and resourcefulness our Anzacs needed to display in testing circumstances, and I'll be forever grateful for their sacrifices. As a nation, we should never forget their sacrifices and never forget the hardship they endured.
We salute their fellowship and courage. We think of the families, those who stayed behind. We salute their endurance and strength as we think of the prisoners and wounded, those who still suffer today.
But above all, on Anzac Day, we honour those who died for us, for our nation Australia, and for our peace. We do not celebrate victory or glorified war. We celebrate the human spirit, the spirit of Anzac.
Lest we forget.